Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Transfer Podcast. Today, I have Jeri Chambers, the Deputy Director of Communities Foundation of Texas. And I'm super excited for Jeri to tell us a little bit more about charitable giving, because many of us are wondering about how that works, whether it's donor-advised funds or creating a specific donor-directed thing inside of the foundation. I'm certain that she's going to unpack a number of these things for us. And so we're so excited to have her. The first time we've had anything on charitable giving on our podcast. So Jeri, tell us about what you do on a daily basis and how you guys work.
Well, first of all, Matt, thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be able to be here and to talk about the great work that we do at Communities Foundation of Texas. Every day is different. I try to carve out time for desk time, but most of all, I'm out and about meeting with people. I have my favorite coffee places to be able to meet with folks, trying to, as much as I can, to be as engaged in the community and get to know people and make sure that they know about who we are and what we're about. And I do have a portfolio of donors that I get to work with, so I get to provide them support. Love that they call us and they're going to get a person, and we can sit down and help them with whatever their needs are, whether it's something very simple as giving them security directions on how to do their transfer for their securities, or to really talking about in a more meaningful way their philanthropic landscape and how they want to make a difference in the community. So every day is different, and it's always a fun day to. You look at your schedule, and sometimes it doesn't always turn out the way it is because you're responding to your clients and to the folks in need, just in time. So it's great.
Well, I know that many times as family portfolios grow or as assets grow, it can almost feel overwhelming to select how to utilize those when it comes to charitable giving. And I've heard a number of stories where families don't have enough time to even help to figure that out. And so you can come alongside families and help them figure out where they might be interested in giving or what the opportunities might be. And how does that process work? Or how do you help people find where there might be opportunity for them to utilize their resources?
Well, first of all, listen to where they are and what they're about. The clients that we see often are ones that they've had a unexpected financial windfall, whether it was suddenly a business being sold, or I have two different clients that had father and a stepfather who had land and had passed away, and no one knew that there was something there that was going to be there. And now suddenly there's a there, and they don't know what to do with this sudden windfall of benefit and fortune, if you will, and blessings is what we like to talk about it at being. And how do we come alongside them and help them with that? One family in particular that I worked with, they wanted to honor the parents because both of them, one was ill, the other one was deceased, and they wanted to honor their family. And their parents modeled for them tithing, which for those who may not know what that is, in the faith tradition, it's 10% of your wealth is going to go to the church or to good. And so they have, since they've been had a fund with Communities Foundation of Texas, are very true to that. And it's so exciting to see. It's exciting to see that amount grow, but it's even more exciting to see when they distribute those funds out into the cause areas, to the entities that they care about. And also it's really fun when they have questions like, okay, we want to support this. What can we go about doing that? And so we can come alongside them, really listen to what that means and what that looks like, and then provide them a list of nonprofits that they can then explore further, or we can help them explore further to really make a difference in the areas that they're really passionate about.
So tell me more about the vehicles that you guys can help people utilize to do that. So obviously they could find a charity or find an opportunity, and they could even go start their own foundation. But what would that look like to partner with you guys?
To partner with us could be all the gamut. We really are wanting to lean in and saying yes to people and figure out how to say yes to what their dreams and passions are. The main vehicle that we use is the donor advised fund. That is what the bulk of our funds are. But we also have different other flavors of funds. We have a scholarship fund, which is one of my very favorite things that we do. And in that scholarship fund, it's not like giving to your university, which you can do. This is where do you want to move the needle in the life of a student? It can be a high school kid, helping them with their private school tuition. It can be a particular college, or it could be a particular area. So scholarships are my very favorite. We might want to come back to that one because it's just really meaningful to work with folks in that venue. We have something called a designated fund. So let's say that a family, an individual is really passionate about one nonprofit in particular, and they want to give to them, they can open what's called a designated fund. And what is really cool about that is they can build it over time and it can turn into an endowment. So that nonprofit for the rest of perpetuity knows there's going to be this much money coming into the organization every year, which is very big and meaningful to that organization and to that donor. So we come alongside in all those ways. We have many cause areas that we support. So and people are they're very passionate about their animals. If people just want to specifically give to, we have an animals fund, and then they can trust us to then deploy those grants out to the animal groups that are doing the most work, the most innovation, the most need, the most impact in the community. So they can leave that to us, but they know that their cause area of animals is being covered with their giving. So there's lots of different vehicles.
Oh, that's amazing. So obviously, donor advised funds have become a very popular conversation lately. And I think a lot of people think that it might be something that's only for once you have a significant amount of money, right? But it's very accessible, something that someone might even start at a lower rate. When do you see people coming to you, or when should they start coming to you if they're considering using a donor advised fund, whether it's for tax strategy or whether it's for just to be able to manage how they charitably give?
Well, at any time that they think that's part of their conversation. Now, Community Foundation of Texas, our minimums are a little bit higher than what some of the commercial foundation entities do because of the services we provide. So our minimum is at $25,000. There are other entities out there that have a much lower bar, but they also don't come with a person. They also don't come with really robust philanthropic consulting, robust opportunities for community engagement. But if you really want to dive in deep, at some point along this journey, we hope everybody's a giver, but we call it peanut butter giving, that you spread it out a little bit too thin. So you maybe do 100 here, you may do 1,000 here, you may do whatever, spread it out. And at some point you go, am I really making a difference? Is this really making a difference in the world? Am I changing anything? And that's a really good time to come talk to us, because we can really sit down with them. We have a wonderful program we call Give Wisely, where we sit down either in groups or with individuals or families, and we work through an exercise of identifying their values and identifying their passions. And we bring those two together, and we bring it to individuals, we bring it to a family, and we can help put together a philanthropic plan for that family, even so much as to even help them budget how they want to display, send out those gifts. And so that's really a fun part of what we get to do. And so it's really someone who I want to make a bigger difference, and we're there to meet them, whatever that difference is.
Do you have any stories of when you feel like this was done well, especially with matching values and passions with how the giving plan was made?
Well, one of the families I alluded to earlier, they came to us with the extra funds they weren't expecting, and we did the Give Wisely session with them. We did it with sisters, we did it with their spouses, and we did it with 5 of their 6 children. And that was very exciting because they got to learn about how their kids, some of the kids were in high school, some of them were in college, and it was a really opportunity for them to get to know each other better and to see what their interests were. And it was from that the kind of the main people that were working on it came with the idea of, we want to serve the womb and the tomb. And that means that they want to serve young mothers, young babies, but then they also wanted to serve that elderly end, that caregiving end. They already were really well aware of what they wanted to do into the womb. They already knew the nonprofits, they already knew that aspect. But when it came to serving seniors and caregiving, they were just really trying to find a loss as to how to get engaged with that. So we sent them, and one of the things that Communities Foundation of Texas does is North Texas Giving Day. And it's a wonderful tool for people to just search. It's an amazing filter. You can search it by cause area, you can search it by size, you can search it by location. And so they kind of played with that and discovered a nonprofit they were really excited about. So we were able to introduce them to the executive director. And this is a family now that has made a 3-year, multi-year significant gift to really move the needle with an organization in North Texas that's helping out seniors. So that's the joy, is kind of being that matchmaker, and that nonprofit has really blossomed and grown because of that generosity.
That's amazing. What are some of the mistakes people make in this process What are the red flags or the things that you see people do that you wish they wouldn't?
I don't know if I would call this a red flag as much as I would call it as a misunderstanding. Most people give with cash. Enough said.
I like, this is actually one of my pet projects where I'm like, everyone needs to be eliminating capital gains by giving their appreciated stock, right? Their appreciated, your other appreciated assets. Yeah. Well, any other warnings or recommendations that you give to people?
First of all, identify what philanthropy and legacy planning looks like for you personally. What are you excited about? And are your children aware? You know, there comes a time as an adult that had parents that passed away, having that conversation with your parents so that you know exactly what they would like for their legacy to look like if they don't set up a donor advice fund in their time, if they don't have that forethought to think, okay, how can I leave a legacy? Still benefit my kids, but how can then I also give a legacy? And so that's one of the things we're really leaning into that's just so gratifying, is finding that couple who 60s, 70s maybe, and their wealth advisor has said, well, if you die at 100, this is what we predict how much you're going to have left. And they go, what? First of all, they don't believe it. And then second of all, they're like, well, either one, I don't want our kids to get that much. They're now proven successful on their own. We don't want to give them all of that. Or two, they don't have successors. They don't have any beneficiaries that they have. A couple that's maybe never had kids or whatever their circumstances are, they don't have that. What are we going to do? And so that is something that's really gratifying, to sit down with them and figure out what they want to do with that. Now, they can do it what we call as an estate-funded DAF, which means the money doesn't come in until they have passed, and the estate then funds whatever that looks like. It can be a portion, whatever it wants to. And we can be very specific for them in what that looks like into perpetuity, what they're going to do. And then they can do a percentage, and upon their passing, their estate would become into an endowment with us. Let's just say it's a conservative $2 million. They're going to be able to grant out a good 80,000. I got to do the math in my head, Matt. Sorry, I'm doing the math. A good amount for the rest of time, which is great. It's 80,000, but it grows over time. So that endowment, because of how we run our endowment, will always grow. So for the rest of time, someone's going to be getting, an organization can know they're going to be getting something from that organization. It's really gratifying to sit down with a couple after they've done that and go, okay, look what you've done for the rest of time. And they kind of sit in it like, wow, who knew? And it's really special.
Well, I think you hit on a couple amazing things. One, for those that don't have maybe a lot of heirs, or if they don't want to leave a lot to their heirs, you basically have almost a trustee that's going to help make sure that your money is used for good into the future. And a lot of people are trying to figure out how to do that. And then the other side of it is, if you do have heirs, you can involve them in that conversation both while you're alive, and then maybe even once you've passed, they can still be part of that conversation to
absolutely
make selections and move that money into places where it can be needed most.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this. For one, we hope that people will actually open a fund during their lifetime, because then we get to know them better. We get to know them, we get to see what their giving is. Let's say they do care deeply about animals and they want to give to animals. We can see what animals organizations they gave to in their lifetime and then continue that legacy. The other thing is that in an estate plan, we hope that in the estate plan they'll say in their will, or whatever the trust documents, or whatever the vehicle is, the beneficiary is going to be CFT. If they put in their document the beneficiary is going to be nonprofit XYZ, and they live another 20 years, unfortunately, Matt, we're not seeing that nonprofits are always successful. They are a business like anybody else, and sometimes, in fact, we've had some in North Texas, some really great ones that we thought would be around for forever, unexpectedly not make it. So then you're now trusting on a probate officer or trustee to kind of figure out, what do we do now? Well, with us, it's easy, because we will vet all the nonprofits. If it's not working or if it's not going well, we can set it up so that we give to either the closest like mission organization, or we can say, instead of giving to 6 organizations, if one of them fails, we're just going to divide it up between the 5. So we have a lot more of knowledge and expertise in that. So we hope that those estate attorneys are having those conversations with their clients, or those high wealth advisors could have that say, hey, this is a better insurance policy that you're giving is going to be going to something really good and helpful.
That's a great point. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that would be my concern as well. You pick a charity and then it's gone, and who knows if it actually makes it to the cause that you care about.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier scholarships, and I think that is a great idea. So tell me more about how you guys help people set up scholarship funds or an endowment that can then have scholarship recipients every year.
So we have our regular scholarship is at $100,000, which the people pause because they're like, well, I can do it at the blah college or whatever for a lot less. But what they don't get is that they get full say in exactly what it's going to look like. If you give to a college, it's great. You go give it to the business school, that's great. But that's about where it ends. You don't really necessarily get to have much more. Sometimes, if it's a really large scholarship, but if you have that specificity, we can say, I want it to go to first-gen college students in Collin and Denton County going to a state college, whatever. We just opened up for a couple, and they wanted to honor her parents, and they had a connection in Tyler, and they had a connection in Corpus. And so their scholarship is going to be such that it's going to be a student either going to Tyler Junior College or going to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Who can do that? We can. And then what we do is we then market, and we will have relationships with those entities and say to those school districts that are feeding to those kids in an area, we have a platform where we send out to high school counselors all across the state of Texas and say, these are the scholarships that we have. You can have one family member serve on the scholarship committee. Can't do that in college. If you're doing a different kind of version, you don't get to you might get to meet the recipient, but you don't get to weigh in or have a family member help pick and select that person. And then you can choose whether or not you want to be in correspondence with a recipient or stay off, hands off, or what have you. You can also repeat the scholarship year after year so that we will check, it's really great to give to a freshman in high school, a senior in high school going to be a freshman. Where the rubber really hits roads for a lot of kids and why they don't finish their college is because something happens their junior or senior year. So we have scholarships that support those students, but we can also have it set it up where if the student replies back, they can reapply every year for a scholarship. So we can do it. We can do it. The sky is really the limit in terms of how we can set these scholarships up, which is really, really fun and really, really cool.
I actually love that. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I do think too, sometimes maybe your desires change, right? Like maybe it was for a school in the past, but you don't feel that school is managing their money as well anymore. And now you maybe you can even kind of change up what you're looking to do with your scholarship fund, or be maybe more generalist, less about school specifics or something like that. So
yeah, no, and as long as you're alive, you can modify and change the parameters of your scholarship. Whereas once you go to the university, it's fixed. So that's the nice thing about us is you can, even your fund agreements, you can come back to them and revise them, change them up. And oh, by the way, you don't have to pay any hourly rates to any attorneys or anyone to get that taken care of. That's just part of the services we provide.
That's amazing. Are there any other ideas or services or things that you think the general public maybe doesn't know about but should?
Well, one of the things that's really interesting is we work with a lot of private foundations. So private foundations will open a fund with us as part of their required fiduciary responsibility to give at least 5% out in assets every year. So that's kind of an interesting thing how we do that. We also, because they have that relationship, anyone has a fund with us, we can do specific grant making on their behalf. Let me explain this a little bit. Most people are very reactive with their giving. I see this, I give. I see this, I give. Someone asks me, I give, I react. But what we can provide is we can create a grant cycle that they create themselves. So one of my very favorite stories we did was during the pandemic. And we have a couple and this has been widely told amongst our stories, but they were very much into the performing arts. What happened to performing arts during COVID? Eviscerated. Not in a good way at all, in any shape, form, or fashion. And they wanted to help the smaller. They knew the big ones. We can name all the big ones, the symphony and the opera. They were probably going to be okay. But the smaller ones, their revenue is those tickets. And they don't have the infrastructure to have that. So we created a letter of inquiry on their behalf that they put together with us, and we sent out that to 20 smaller performing arts organizations in North Texas. They sent the applications back, and then we sat down with them and had them pick which ones they wanted to do. And I think they chose 5 or 6. They were thinking they were going to do 3. And they were so in love with what came back, they ended up giving to 5 different organizations, saving them so that when things were less restricted and people could go to performances, they had something ready to go in the queue for their people to come to. So and we can do that in any kind of shape, form, or fashion for people. And I think that's really, it puts the onus on you a little bit more as a donor to be active and proactive in how you want to move that needle in the community.
I love that because I think sometimes there is a desire to maybe go straight to where the need is rather than just to go to a nonprofit. And so to be able to have that intermediary that you guys provide to then be able to do direct grant making through application, that's super cool. And I think also, we forget in today's day and age, many people have gotten used to the government providing services or the government doing things for the people that need something. And it's so beautiful when we can take private wealth that we already have access to and then utilize it for good in a space that we see the need and be able to do that directly. That's how it should work, right? Where we're like collaborating, using our resources and figuring out how we can help those in our community.
So you've just opened a great window for me for another amazing story. We have, as a community foundation, have realized that there are many nonprofits that have lost grant funding. Some of them were prepared for it, some of them were not prepared for it. And we had a nonprofit in North Texas who found out in December that they weren't going to get $250,000 of housing funding. They have 3 transitional houses that they have for young people 18 to 25-year-olds. It's part of their missions. They each cost $250,000 to run. What are they going to do? So they called Communities Foundation of Texas, and they talked to our chief philanthropy officer, and he said, okay, I can talk to us. And so we put a plan together and said, okay, I'm going to give you guys $50,000, but it's a match. You have to earn a 1-to-1 match because it gives them a sense of urgency. Like, we're going to fix this. We've got $50,000 coming, but we've got to match it. That's great. That was wonderful. We then have in our portfolios a way of finding out who else has also already given to the organization in the past or has cared about homelessness of young people. We can send out an email. We can make phone calls. I called one of my fund holders and said, hey, I think this is something you'd be interested in. She said, okay, yeah, I am interested. Would you introduce me to the executive director? Sure. I'm going to take her to coffee. Okay. She told the executive director, I understand you have a match. I understand you're trying to find the match. Forget the match. I'm going to do an extra $50,000 for you.
That just gives me goosebumps. How cool.
Is that not so cool? So
cool.
Even a donor, that's the other thing about being a part of community foundation is you can find out where there's need that you're not going to find out just by walking down the street knowing. So if an organization I've given to in the past has had some kind of crisis, they're not going to put that on a billboard. But if they let us know about it, and then we can go to, if someone came to me and said, Jeri, this nonprofit that you have given this much money to in the past, their refrigerator broke down. And now they unexpectedly, and they need this much money for a refrigerator. Do you think I'm not going to give them at least $100? I mean, people love to be asked to give, but when you ask to give, it's something they've already believed in, and they're in a crisis, or they have some kind of emergency funding. Who says no to that? And so now I'm part of a community that I can find that out. I can learn about those things and make a difference. So. Oh,
and I got a little envious for a second of your job because how fun is it to play connector? We were like, okay, we've got this need. Now we're going to, and even be able to sort through the data and know like, okay, we've got, these people that already are interested in this. Like what a fun call to make when you already know that one of your donors is interested in that, to say, I've got something fun to tell you. Do you want this opportunity? And then to know that like that sort of connecting work is providing so much value to people in the community. What a cool job. And it is fun also to be exposed to other maybe nonprofits or opportunities you didn't even know about. And then you get excited about those because it's a new opportunity. So,
right. Another thing I wanted to tell you about that people don't know is that community foundations are all over the United States. There's over 3,000. There are over 300 in the state of Texas. We have several of them in North Texas. What's really a meaningful part of being associated with the community foundation is when something goes sideways in the community. We had an explosion recently in southern Dallas where an apartment complex was completely obliterated, and those folks did not have housing. Community Foundation of Texas has stepped up to get the nonprofits in order to help find the funding to help bring that difference. That's a huge, impactful story. It pales into comparison to what happened in the flooding last summer with the Hill Country. So there is a Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country, and the work that they did was absolutely incredible, but they could not have done it without the San Antonio Community Foundation, without the Austin Community Foundation, without Communities Foundation of Texas, because they have 4 staff members, and in a matter of 48 hours, they had over $2 million of money coming into their coffers, and they are overwhelmed. So each of the different foundations stood up and helped them in different capacities so they could get the word out and get all the things done. And what people don't realize, it's the immediate emergency is one thing, but having sustainable, neighborhoods were wiped out. And yes, the loss of life was incredible. The economics of many of the businesses there. And the Community Foundation really brought together the community and funded 4 different funds, led by experts in each of those 4 areas on how to bring that economic development back, how to bring the housing back, how to bring all this infrastructure back to their city and to their community. That is the magic of community foundations, is being able to have that.
Well, and to be almost like the scaffolding or the framework that then
Right.
others can plug into and work and do the work they want to do.
And know that when you make a donation or gift to that community foundation, 100% of it is going to go back to the need, because, that's how it works. Whereas there are great nonprofits out there that come in, national nonprofits that come in, but they do have overhead and they don't stay for the long haul. That community foundation's been there for years and they're not going anywhere, and they're going to continue to help rebuild that community for the rest of the time.
Is there any other advice you'd give to families or to those that are thinking about maybe setting up a donor advised fund?
Do it. Have a fund. It's a great tool. Again, we start at $25,000, and that can be a big hurdle for a lot of families. The reality is, whatever amount you give, you are a philanthropist. You are, loving thy neighbor is what that is, and having conversations about that, and having families talk about what they want to do and how that's going to show up. Letting your children know how you give and why, but also give them the agency to make a recommendation. Another one of my favorite things that happens with families is parents, whether it's adult children or younger children still in the home, say, okay, we're going to give out this much money for the holidays. Where would you like for it to go? And having a robust family conversation about what that looks like. I had a fund holder who did this during COVID, and they were not getting together as a family, and they did it on Zoom, and everyone's in different cities, and the homework assignment was, you need to come up with a nonprofits, and then you have to pitch to our family why we should support that. And I had a conversation with the mom, Gen 1, and she's like, I'm really worried about this. And I said, why are you really worried about this? She goes, my children could not be different, and their spouses could not be more different in their values of where they want to give. Politically, they are completely different. And I was like, okay, well, good luck with that. So I followed up with her and said, tell me how it went. And she goes, Jeri, our family has never had a more wonderful, unifying conversation ever. My daughter and my daughter-in-law both brought giving to a thyroid disease nonprofit because they both had people in their lives that had been affected by thyroid disease.
How cool.
And now they
have
have this
a commonality.
Yes. So that's
amazing.
the great part about it. It's great to be thinking outward and giving, but it also gives back to you, tenfold.
That's amazing. Well, Jeri, I'd love for people to be able to connect with you. What's the best way for people to find Communities Foundation of Texas, or to find you specifically, and find out more about setting up a donor advised fund?
So Communities Foundation of Texas, our website is, you can Google Communities Foundation of Texas, but it's cftexas.org, and you can find us there. And there's a robust website of all the things. And I am Jeri Chambers, at cftexas.org, and very much interested in working with professional advisors, because they are sometimes the best resource for us. Because I have a client, they want to be philanthropic. I'm really not sure what to do with them. Then introduce us, and we can figure out if we can find a pathway for them. And then just talking to people about how we can be come alongside them in their giving.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeri. This was a great conversation. I think it's going to be so valuable for many people thinking about, how do I give? And $25,000 is such a low bar. It's such a huge opportunity to set up a donor advised fund, especially if you know that you taxably need to make some charitable giving, but you're not sure yet where to put it. DAF is a great spot to go.
Yeah. And the more you have in the DAF, the more interest you'll earn on it. That's the thing that we didn't really hit the highlight of it, is that it isn't an interest-bearing account. So it's not sitting like a savings account, not growing. So that's just one of those things that if people are, you referenced this earlier in the conversation, people are overwhelmed, they don't really begin. Well, we're that resource that can help take away some of that overwhelming and make this charitable process easy, enjoyable, and very, very efficient.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeri. That's it for today's episode of the Wealth Transfer Podcast. If you found value in this conversation, would you leave us a review? That would be just so honoring to us. We'd appreciate it. And if you know somebody who might need to listen to this because they're thinking about their next chapter, will you send them a link to this podcast or this video so that they can listen more as well? For more episodes and expert insights, be sure to follow and subscribe. That means the most to us. Follow and subscribe, please, please, please. And when you're ready to take action on your own real estate plan, or if you need help with wealth transfer planning, we know a number of experts in all the different spaces. We'd love to connect you with them. You can reach out to us via direct message or comment. Or you can email us, matt@templeton.realestate. No .com, just templeton.realestate. And I'd be happy to connect you with an advisor. Thanks so much.